right, next I want to talk about legislation that could come back in the 2027 session. Assembly Bill 91, also known as the Second Look Act, would allow Nevada's parole board to take a second look at certain people in prison for possible early release. The second look reviews would be available to people convicted of Category A or B felonies, but only if they were not sentenced to death, do not pose a significant risk to public safety, and have already served at least 10 years. The bill would also expand parole eligibility for people who committed their crimes before turning 25. The measure passed the Assembly but stalled in the Senate, and Assemblywoman Cecelia González says she hopes to revive it next session. It's legislation she's proud to have crafted with Rickie Slaughter, an activist, author, and inmate.
I made that book especially for you, because I used to live in that same neighborhood that you guys live in now.
That's the voice of Rickie Slaughter in a message he recorded for the children at Donna Street Community Center in North Las Vegas when they got copies of his book. Titled Kaylani and Nas Go to the Legislature, Slaughter wrote the book from behind bars at High Desert State Prison and spoke to Nevada Week using a tablet the prison provided.
So one day I'm working on the proposed language for what would ultimately become Assembly Bill 91, which was the Second Look Act legislation. And I had this moment of insight. What if I would have known how the legislative process worked and how community organizing worked when I was a child? What could my imagination have come up with? How much could I have helped change some of the things I saw growing up? So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I illustrated and wrote a fun and kind of magical story that introduced the legislative process to kids. So that was my idea.
As for Assembly Bill 91, that's the legislation Slaughter worked on with Assemblywoman Cecelia González. And in order to collaborate with Slaughter, she made multiple visits out here to High Desert State Prison. It's about a 40-minute drive from Las Vegas, and her determination is what Slaughter says inspired him to make her a character in his book.
My biological father was incarcerated for 30 years. I have some of my earliest childhood memories are me getting on the city bus with my mother and going down to visitation. And so visiting Rickie, it wasn't, I've been here before.
Assemblywoman Cecelia González is a champion for second chances, for community work. Like, she was coming into the prison pregnant. I think she was pregnant with her daughter at the time, and she was coming up here to work on this piece of what would have been landmark legislation.
And controversial legislation as well, because it could have taken second looks at sentences for Category A felonies. Felonies like murder and rape. Category A felonies can include rape. How do you justify that should be part of this?
I think that at the end of the day, I see every person as a human being, and we are not our worst days or the worst things that we do. I'm also a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault as a child. And so as somebody who is a victim myself, I don't think that my abuser, the penalty should be death or life incarcerated, right? Like, I think that we have this idea where because somebody does something egregious or harmful or something as intense as murder, right, or felony murder, that we just throw them away. They're still a human being that somewhere, somehow got lost in the cracks of whatever that led them to that moment. That doesn't mean that we get to throw them away just because we think what they did was horrible. Do people that commit Category A and Category B felonies deserve to be held accountable? Absolutely. But we're talking about young people here, people that make mistakes that maybe didn't have other parts of their lives when you pull back the whole curtain, right? That now we just throw away forever. It costs us taxpayers money, right? That's money that could be going to education, that could be paying teacher salaries, that could be paying into after school youth programs.
Everyone can grow and change. Everyone can evolve. And there has to be room in the system to understand that sometimes you have the wrong people in here, or you've given them an excessive sentence. If you've given somebody 300 years to serve, sometimes you need to reevaluate those things.
Slaughter was 19 when prosecutors say he and a companion entered a North Las Vegas home and robbed the family inside at gunpoint. They say Slaughter shot one victim in the face. No one died and the companion was never caught. However, Slaughter is serving multiple life sentences. He's now 41 and says constitutional violations prevented him from proving his innocence at trial. He and his public defender are asking a federal judge to discharge him from his confinement. And while he waits on that decision, Slaughter says he'll strategize for next legislative session and continue supporting the kids in the same neighborhood he came from.
It was a poverty-stricken place, a tough neighborhood. We've helped change that around. People like me, Robert Straughter, who's the founder of the Donna Street Community Center, Leslie Turner, who is the deputy director of the Fines and Fees Justice Center.
All right, guys, if you want to know the rest of the story, you gotta read it.
And for the kids who don't read his book, Slaughter sends this summary
That you can always make something meaningful of your life no matter what.
and hopes it hits home. According to the Sentencing Project, 15 state legislatures have passed some form of second look legislation. It did not get through Nevada's legislature in this past session. Assemblywoman, you voted no on it. Why?
So I think anytime that you're dealing with reforming in the criminal justice system and especially early release of prisoners, you have to be very balanced and nuanced in your approach, because you have the rights of the people who are incarcerated and you have the rights of the victims of the crimes. And I think you have to be very careful to tread lightly there and make sure that you're not overcompensating in one way or another. I also think when you look at Category A or Category B felonies, it seems like that's sort of an easy thing, right? Like a general population. What does that mean? We're talking about the worst crimes that are committed in the state, like the harshest laws. And I pulled some information from the research division of the LCB, Legislative Counsel Bureau, and found that there are 4 pages worth of Category A felonies, including first-degree murder, second-degree murder, kidnapping with substantial bodily harm, and then Category B felonies, 12 pages worth. And so I think, if we're going to craft some legislation, if this does come back, I would like us to take a more nuanced approach. And of the 3 or 4 pages of Category A, maybe pick some of the ones that are the least violent and the smallest amount of time that they would be doing anyway, and look at those for adding and expanding. Because what we're expanding on is a program that was meant for geriatric release, right? And I think when we're looking at, in general, from a public policy standpoint, someone who is age 65 or more, and I'm 52 almost, right? Like my viewpoint of old age changes, but when you're 65 or older, you're physically less likely to be able to commit violent crimes. And so it makes a lot of sense from a public policy standpoint. And also from the age of 18 and younger, if you're charged as an adult, your brain isn't fully functioning and all of those things, it's not fully formed and you're not making good decisions, right? But my son just turned 25. And I can tell you the difference between him at 18 to 25 is a big difference. And so maybe 18 to 19, we could look at that, but not the 25.
I would say that, the justice system does make mistakes and there are faults in our justice system and people have been wrongly convicted. So giving someone an opportunity for their case just to be looked at again, I think is a great opportunity. It doesn't mean that they're going to be released, that, they still go through the due process. People review the case, and if there was an error in the case or if there has been some substantial change, that this individual will be eligible for release, and I think they do deserve that second chance.
All right. Assemblyman Jovan Jackson and Assemblywoman Lisa Cole, thank you so much for joining Nevada Week.